I saw Mikey kissing Mrs. Claus underneath the mistletoe last night. She didn't see him go out the window to the snow. He bailed again like ghosts of Christmas past from long ago. And Paige and Todd are gonna roast him so, just like chestnuts on your open fire. So here's the friends you know, romancing the pod show. Mikey kissing Mrs. Claus last night.
Thank you for tuning into Romancing the Podcast. You had us at hello. I'm Paige Wesley.
I'm Mikey Randolph.
And I'm Todd Schlosser, and this week I made everybody watch The Holiday. All right, so full disclosure, this is probably my favorite holiday rom-com movie. It's so good. I've seen it so many times. Have you guys seen this movie before?
So I saw this in theaters when it came out. I was like 18, I think. And I don't know if you guys remember, but right around the time this movie came out, Jude Law had cheated on Sienna Miller with his nanny. And it was like,
oh my God.
I did remember this.
Yes, it was like the news story. And so when I saw this, I did not like it the first time. And I think it's because like the real life Jude Law had bled into the movie for me. And so I did not watch this movie since. Last night was the second time I have seen this movie in my life, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I was like, I've hated this movie for years. What's going on?
I love this movie, Paige. I'm very glad you liked it. Mikey, had you seen this movie before?
I'm kind of on your boat, Todd, where I really like this movie.
Yeah.
I think I watch it like once a year.
So what you're saying is it's a tradition. If you've done it at least 2 or 3 years, it's a tradition, Mikey.
It's a tradition.
Sure. I guess we could be ridiculous.
I mean, I started this movie thinking I was going to have to fight with you guys about it.
I will say I enjoy the Jack Black, Kate Winslet storyline more than the Jude Law storyline.
The first time I saw this movie, I agree with you. I was all about the Jack Black storyline. This time I enjoyed the other one because I kind of have a little bit of frustration with the Jack Black storyline where I feel like they build those two people, both Kate Winslet and Jack Black, as kind of less attractive, which I think is bullshit.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's Kate Winslet.
It's Kate Winslet, but they dress her down, and they're definitely billing them as the, quote, less attractive storyline. And it kind of made me mad that on the other side with Cameron Diaz and Jude Law, we have like a full-blown make-out sex fest, and we don't even let Jack Black and Kate Winslet kiss, and she flies him back to England. So that is a sticking point for me of like, give them a love story too, because they don't really get one. They get the Harold Zoid episode from Futurama that is charming, but we don't really get a love story for them in this movie that is as, I would say, passionate as the other half of the movie.
I think I agree with you. I would also like to say that I'm not a super huge Cameron Diaz fan.
Oh, it's fully because she's a terrible actress.
Yes.
Literally every time I watch this movie with Natalie, we talk about how terrible Cameron Diaz is and how amazing Jude Law is when you put him next to someone who is fully as terrible as Cameron Diaz. And it's honestly one of my favorite parts of the movie because you're like, how is he this good with that across the table from him?
I mean, Jude Law is a really good actor.
He's solid, man. Hell yeah. Enemy at the Gates? Come on.
Yeah. I mean, like, he divorced from the news stories at the time with enough distance to just appreciate the movie as is. He's fantastic in this movie.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
He is. So is Jack Black.
Jack Black's great all the time. I love
and
Jack
so is
Black.
Kate Winslet. I think for me, the love story in this that hits me as a surprise is Kate Winslet and Arthur. Like, the love that they build for each other just hits me in a way like I cry like a baby when she goes to pick him up and they go to his Writers Guild of America thing. And I cry more during that than I do any other thing. I'm just thinking about his life and he lost his wife.
Yeah.
And then this girl comes along and like does this super sweet thing of like taking an interest in this older guy. Like, it's so sweet. I literally cry so much every time.
I do like it. I did cry. But there is a part of me that's like, she deserves the level of passion that Cameron Diaz gets. She deserves it too in her life.
Oh, I agree. With your assessment of the Jack Black, Kate Winslet storyline, I agree completely. Like Cameron Diaz and Jude Law are banging on night one, and Jack Black and Kate Winslet have been hanging out for a month, and they don't even kiss until he flies across the globe, really, to spend New Year's Eve with her.
He does have a girlfriend like the whole time.
Does he?
Yes, he has a girlfriend in portions, and I do think that plays into it.
Yeah.
But there's a part of me that's like, that was a writing choice. That girlfriend, I mean, the only thing that girlfriend serves to do, and again, we should probably just get into the movie and talk about it, but she serves to be a mirror for Kate Winslet's relationship. That's the only thing. But because this is a movie split in half, we don't get enough time with them to really invest in the idea that they are both coming from toxic relationships that are very similar and have found each other.
That's a really good point.
So I think we should get into what I have started calling Good Love Actually, which is the movie The Holiday. So let's get into it.
That's pretty fair. At one point I called it Snow 27 Dresses in the beginning, but we'll get into it.
I believe I took my mom on a date to see this when it came out.
Mikey, I do not like that you call them dates.
That is a real upsetting turn of phrase.
That sentence I am not a fan of.
I took her to the movies. She's divorced.
I like that Mikey added the caveat of she's divorced as if it's like, she's not cheating with me. She's divorced.
No, but I mean, oh my God. So this is like an Attack Mikey episode.
No, this is not an attack, Mikey. This is an intervention.
No, everybody who I know listens to this podcast, everyone. I've talked to everyone. Many people are talking. That you two gang up on me.
Okay, cool. My cousins earlier this past week, they referred to you as the super single one.
And I think you're super single because you're taking your mom on dates and not eligible bachelorettes.
Yeah, I mean, you can't even really get to first base on that one.
Oh my God. I can't do this.
Just call it an outing.
It's an outing.
Yeah.
We went on an outing.
There we go.
Hey, now that we've gone on this Mikey dates his mom sidebar, can we get into the fucking movie page?
No, I want to talk about this 20 minutes longer. I know. Paige texts me and she's like, my cousin said that you're the super single one, but they love you. And I was like, oh God. You know what I love? 90 Day Fiance the other way, but that doesn't make it great.
Controversial opinion, it does make it great.
If Todd knew what the show was that I'm talking about, he would be laughing.
You assume I don't watch 90 Day Fiance.
How do you think he met Natalie? She came all the way from Hobbiton.
You guys, I am never sending you pictures of my feet again. Can we get into this fucking movie?
So we open on two people kissing by a lake. Turns out it's a movie, and Jack Black is scoring the movie.
Yes.
As we kind of go through his studio, we get Kate Winslet's voiceover, where she's basically kind of giving us her thoughts on love. Much like Love Actually, we don't need this voiceover. I really don't know why most voiceovers are there.
Yeah, that's fair. Most VO is not needed, right? But I do feel like this movie does everything that Love Actually does much better. And I do think this is a much better VO.
Yeah, I would say so too.
And I do love, just like Love Actually, that Jack Black is playing the keyboard in all the scenes you see him playing. He's actually playing.
Yeah, it's because he can play.
Yeah, he's a musician.
But we also see his girlfriend, or who we find out is his girlfriend later, Shannon Sossamon, who is terrible in everything. Literally every movie she's in, she's terrible.
Yeah, I don't think she's a bad actress, but she plays a bad character in every one. Oh, do you? I don't really see her in enough scenes to determine that.
So here's the thing. I love the movie A Knight's Tale.
That's
it's
what I was going to say. I love
movie,
A Knight's
and
Tale.
she is fucking terrible in it.
Oh, yeah. I forgot that was her. She's real bad.
She also at one point named her son Audio Science.
No, she did not.
Is her son a DJ?
No, I think he's just a person.
That's unfortunate.
I don't know. Anytime I see her in a movie, I cringe. I'm just like, again. So he kisses Shannon Sossamon's hand as she leaves.
Yeah.
And this is where we get the voiceover from Kate Winslet that says, "Love is blind." So we cut to a shot of Cameron Diaz in a car with, it's Edward Burns, right?
Yeah.
It is Edward Burns. Yeah.
And so I think when he was in 27 Dresses, I have him as not Patrick Wilson in my notes.
Yeah.
And in my notes, I just have not Paul Rudd. Which is like just swapping the born white guys out.
I do love Edward Burns. If you haven't seen the movie Confidence, check it out. He's solid. He's great. But in this movie, you don't see him that much.
No, and he's a total douchebag.
Yeah. I mean, I sort of think that's how he is most of the time you see him.
Yeah. So we get a voiceover that says Love Fades, which is kind of like voiceover shadowing.
Yeah. It's VO Shadow.
VO shadow. We see Arthur, the old man, going to bed next to a photo of his late wife, which is very sweet.
Yeah,
I
it
love
made me
Arthur
sad.
so much.
And we cut to a shot of Jude Law in a bar where a girl kind of smiles at him. And then the voiceover talks about unrequited love. And this is where Kate Winslet kind of breaks down what her life has been like and how the last 3 years and the 3 holidays of the past couple of years have been miserable because she's quote unquote in love with someone who doesn't love her back.
Yeah.
This is set up a lot like 27 Dresses, but better. This is 27 Dresses with earned emotions.
Yeah.
I
Oh, yeah.
100% agree.
Still cried during 27 Dresses, but I felt better about crying during this movie.
I cannot believe you cried during 27 Dresses.
I think I did too at some point.
What is wrong
Thank
with
you,
you?
Paige. I feel seen, Paige. Thank you.
I think I cried when we found out that her sister cut up her wedding dress and then cheered as she cussed at her. Anyway, so in this movie, her boss is played by Rufus Sewell, and his character is terrible. He's a great actor.
He always played terrible characters.
The one time he doesn't is Tristan and Isolde, and he is one of my favorite parts of that movie. And it's not a great movie, but I'm gonna make you watch it eventually.
I'm so excited. I have not seen that movie. I'm so excited about it.
He's also in A Knight's Tale.
He is also in A Knight's
Yeah.
Tale.
But isn't he a douchebag in A Knight's Tale?
Fully. Yeah.
Fully
Okay.
fully a douchebag.
He's typecast.
Anyway, so essentially we find out that she has bought him a gift and she puts it in her desk drawer. Also, this was written and I believe directed by Nancy Meyers, who, if you are a romantic comedy fan, there are many Nancy Meyers movies, and I would say that they tend to be better than most. And that's probably why this one is good.
She's done a ton of rom-coms. Yeah.
Yeah. But this is where Kate Winslet tells us that, or I think she tells us by way of talking to another character.
Yeah, literally, one of her friends come over and is like, hey, so what's your deal? What's going on with you and this guy? Like, it really sets up what the stakes are between her and Rufus.
Yes, and we find out that they weren't exclusive, but they were sleeping together, and he ends up sleeping with someone else, who I think is the girl that he ends up engaged to.
Yeah, I think so too. Although I'm not sure it gets into all that. I'm not sure they name names.
It doesn't necessarily matter, but yeah.
No, it doesn't.
And we know that after they stop sleeping together, she continues to have feelings for him,
Yes.
even though it's not mutual, but he's blurring the lines of their relationship boundary that he's kind of leading her on.
Yeah, he does what, and my dad would talk about this all the time, how you should never do this, but he does what my dad would have called back burnering somebody.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like they move them to the back burner and never let them fully go.
Yeah.
Because, you might want to get back together with them if the front burner doesn't work out. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like
Yeah.
I have been backburned many times.
I mean, I find it to be incredibly cruel to do to
Yes.
somebody. And I
Yes.
think this movie does a great job of not fully revealing that he is doing it intentionally immediately. Because I think, I think the first couple times we meet him and she's giving him gifts, it's really set up like it's her. Like she's the one keeping it going. And he's just kind of interacting with her because they're coworkers and friends.
Yeah, they're friendly.
And she's the one who's attaching meaning to it.
Sure.
And again, they're writers.
Well, much like 27 Dresses, she's a wedding column writer.
Oh,
Yes.
God.
It's Christmas 27 Dresses. But he comes into her office and she's kind of a brown noser, where she's like gushing about an article he wrote, gives him his gift. And he's like, oh, I forgot to bring yours.
It's in the car or whatever.
Yeah, or whatever. And I know you'll look hot in it, which implies that it's lingerie, which is inappropriate for the workplace.
Noted.
I mean, this is someone she was sexually active with and would like to be again. So
Yeah.
it is a welcome change. And I'm just saying this because I know someone who has let's just say, had a intimate relationship with someone that worked in their HR department. And, sometimes that line does get blurred on the job. And just, hopefully you don't send an email that's incriminating and have your IT send it on to your manager and then have some sort of, conversation when that person who was covering your ass that you were also banging in HR leaves.
Let's talk about this. You want to talk about this? First off, the IT department wasn't even involved. So that's a lie.
Sorry, I may have messed up some details. I apologize.
She quit very suddenly and they went through her email. There's a difference.
What did the email say?
Oh, Mikey, tell the story.
Okay. Me and this girl from HR, who we went on one of the most Nashville dates I've ever went on. And I actually liked her. It just didn't work out in the long term.
You're both guitars. You went to the Music Hall of Fame.
No, we went to the Ryman and saw Dolly Parton. And it was amazing. And it was one of my favorite Nashville experiences. And she was super sweet for buying tickets and stuff. And we dated for a few months.
So she took you on this awesome date.
Yeah. We stayed friends. We just were like, okay, this is kind of hard because we work together and blah, blah, blah. I didn't even realize I sent her any emails that were unprofessional at all until I get called into my boss's office.
After she quits, Paige.
After she quit. And I get called in and it's like my boss and my boss's boss and my boss's boss. And they're like, hey, we had someone from HR quit unexpectedly. And so we went through her emails and they found an inappropriate email from you in there. And I was like, oh my God.
Wait, Mikey, before you go on, can I ask the question of, had you and this HR employee informed the company that you were dating?
That's not a policy that we have, so no.
Okay, now continue.
I had a panic attack. Basically, I turned bright red and I was like, anyway, I wasn't getting in trouble for it. And I was like, I didn't know I sent anything because I'm very professional.
Usually, Paige. Normally he is. In this case, not so much.
So it's like a 10-minute meeting where they're like, you might have to go to a training. Or
and here's how foreplay works.
That's so funny. And I go back to my desk. And so I sent a search for all sent messages to her. And what happened was 4 months before this, she sent out an email company-wide that there's a thunderstorm warning. And I had replied and I said, there is a thunderstorm in my pants.
Just so you guys know, because you can't hear Paige, she pulled her sweater up over her face. Her face is in her hands right now. This is one of my favorite Mikey stories that I've been sitting on for longer than he's been on any podcast I produce.
There's a thunderstorm in my pants.
Paige has not been able to talk since this whole story time.
All right, well, I just wanted you to hear that story. Let's move on.
So she bought him a first edition. We don't know what the book is.
Oh, an amazing gift.
And he asks her where she found it. And she said it was buried in that place that we found that one time, essentially implying that they went on an outing to a bookstore and that's where she found it.
Yeah.
So it's got double significance. And he says, why are you so great? And he follows it up with I hate that we can never talk. And I'm like, talking right now? I feel like you could talk whenever. What's going on?
Yeah.
And we cut to, they basically go back out into the main lobby of their office where the CEO is announcing that they're kind of reducing their hours for Christmas and they've got a wedding coming up. And it's him. He's engaged to somebody else.
Oh.
It's even more brutal than that, though, because the editor-in-chief, or whoever this guy is, says, hey, Kate Winslet's character, you're going to have a little bit of extra work because someone in the office just got engaged and it's the guy you're in love with.
Yes.
Doesn't this suck for you? It's so sad.
It's brutal. It's devastating.
Yeah.
And after the scene that we've just seen, yes, could it be a very close friendship? Sure. But I would say there's definitely some mixed signals going on.
Oh, yeah. And we already know they were intimate at one point.
Yeah. That's how it's different from 27 Dresses. This is not just somebody pining after somebody they've never talked to. This is former relationship that kind of ended on ambiguous terms.
27 Dresses is full on a serial killer.
Right.
And Kate Winslet's sort of a normal person who's just still hung up on a guy she was maybe friends with benefits with. Maybe they sort of dated, whatever. But she just has feelings for someone she was once with.
Yeah.
Right. So we cut to her leaving the party, which totally get it. She rides the train home alone to her adorable cottage that I am obsessed with, that I want so badly.
It is amazing. I love that place. I've seen it in other movies too.
I love it so much. And then she gets inside and basically just sobs. Her house is like the coziest place to be sad. It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's literally perfect for surviving a breakup. I love it so much.
Which is good news for Cameron Diaz, because we're about to cut to that.
We cut to Hollywood and her mansion where not Paul Rudd wakes up.
I have a question for you, Paige. What do you feel about people who call it Holly weird?
I mean, it happens all the time. I don't think it's any weirder than it. I mean, no, that's not true. It's
That's
pretty
like
weird.
people calling Nashville Nash Vegas. I'm like, oh, that's fine, but you're not from here.
I get way more offended when people call California Cali, or when people refer to the Bay Area as Frisco. I don't like either of those.
Huh. Noted.
Hey, Mikey, we should go to Frisco when all this coronavirus.
God. Texas? You're going to Texas. Congratulations. Have fun in Texas.
I'm a Cali guy inside.
You're not. So we cut to her Hollywood mansion where not Paul Rudd wakes up
On the couch, Paige.
on the couch, calls out for Cameron Diaz. She's in their bedroom, and she just immediately starts throwing shoes. And he's denying that he slept with the receptionist. And she's like, well, swear on my life then. Swear on my life that you didn't sleep with her. And he won't do it.
Yeah, which is insane to me. He's been lying about it forever. Why not continue to lie about it? I'm not saying you
know.
should, but like that just doesn't make sense to me.
Everybody has a line, Todd.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's fair. Yeah, his line is going to be
Like, I'll sleep with my secretary and cheat on you, but I will not swear in your life. That's epic.
Yeah.
I have standards.
Anyway, she kicks him out.
I do love that this day starts with a fight. Like they both went to bed so mad that they are fighting immediately from Jump Street the next morning.
He did not come home till 4:30.
Oh, was that? I guess that's why he was on the couch. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's now in front of the house, and she's up on basically like the front balcony of the house.
Which is by design, right? It is very the breakup version of Romeo and Juliet, right?
Yes. And he's basically like, we've had problems for over a year. Our sex life is nothing.
Non-existent.
You work too much. I work too much. And she's basically like, well, I didn't cheat on you though. Like, I'm in this relationship too. I'm experiencing all the things that you're experiencing. And instead of just talking to me about it, you cheated on people. So I'll just send you your stuff. Goodbye.
Yeah.
My favorite part about the scene is when he admits to cheating, where
Yeah.
she's like, just with all of your being, just tell me you actually cheated. That would make everything so much better. And the gardener turns around and is like shaking his head.
Yeah. The gardener
I
like shames him.
Laughs so hard.
He's like, don't do it. Don't do it.
And he's like, yes, fine. Are you happy? So she actually comes down and out the front door and is like, am I happy? Am I happy? And commits domestic violence.
Yeah. She fully strikes him twice in the face. But it was 2006, so we're sort of like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. I mean, he also tells her that she screws up every relationship she's ever been in. And we find out later that he has been kind of hypercritical of her. And she's kind of carrying some of that with her.
Yeah, like, okay, they've been together for years and he's been telling her that she's bad in bed. Like, that's insane.
It's wild.
Like, that's horrible behavior. Like, she should have broken up with him a long time ago.
No, I'm with you. Unless she's like into that, like I would be into it. Like if Cameron Diaz wanted to tell me I was bad in bed, and I'd be like, all right, whatever you're into.
We're learning a lot about Mikey today, Paige, and I am here for it. I like to drink Mikey. This is something we got to do more often.
So her personal assistant comes and grabs her. That Ben needs you, who is John Krasinski. He's her head editor.
Yeah.
And they basically screen for her a fake trailer starring Lindsay Lohan and James Franco.
I love this fake trailer so much.
The
Yeah.
fake trailers in this movie are phenomenal.
Yeah. I love that they get A-list talent in this movie for like no time.
For like 10 seconds. And I think it's because it's Nancy Meyers, where people
It
are
is.
just like, you're making
100%
a movie? Sure.
it is. But like Dustin Hoffman has one line in this movie. It's a throwaway line, and that's
Yes.
it. I loved it.
So they finish the trailer. It looks great. She tells them she wants to take a few weeks off, and they're just like, what? We don't do that. What are you talking about?
You're a workaholic.
Yeah.
We don't get to take any time off because you don't take any time off.
Yeah, and she tells them that she wants to eat carbs and read a book, and I'm like, same, bitch.
Yeah, that
Same.
sounds like a great Thursday night for me.
But then she launches into the craziest monologue on Earth, where she's like, severe stress makes women age prematurely and look haggard, and single women over 35 are more likely to be killed by a terrorist than they are to get married, which is not true.
That's not at all
It's
true.
just fucking nuts. It's a bonkers thing to say.
I was happy you guys cleared that up because I was like, is that a true fact?
No, absolutely not. Your likelihood of being killed by a terrorist, especially in America, is so low.
Well, I mean, unless we're talking about white nationalist terrorists, and then that's been going up. Yeah. I do love that Mikey was like, oh, that's plausible.
I don't want to speak anyone else's truth.
Let's just put it this way. This movie came out in 2006.
Yeah.
Now, even if you're counting white nationalist terrorism, that kills a couple thousand people a year. But by their estimation, that means that less than a few thousand women over 35 get married every year.
Oh, yeah, it's fully an insane stat, which anyone at face value could know that it is fully just a ridiculous stat. So anyone who had half a brain cell who watched this movie would know that it's just a fully made up stat and would never question as to whether it was real or not. Right, Mikey?
100% ditto for Todd, what Todd said.
So she says she needs a vacation, and so she sits down at her desk to pretend to cry, which is very weird.
Oh, that scene is insane. And if you thought Cameron Diaz was a good actress up till this point, this scene right there proves it otherwise.
She cannot cry.
Let's talk about this because the film sets up the fact that she never has cried. She never cries. She can't feel.
But her fake cry is terrible.
It is
And
terrible.
she's like, I'm going to try to cry because they're like, you're not even upset.
So she has a terrible fake cry, and then she picks a town to go to in England, just purely not knowing where the town is, not doing any research, just clickety clicks.
She gets on this website that's like, let's trade houses.com or whatever, which
Get murdered for free.
it's something ridiculous. I thought the whole part of them switching houses was a bit of a movie magic.
Now, here's the thing. Pre-Airbnb, in the early 2000s when this is happening, that was a thing.
Really?
It honestly still exists.
Yeah, they just kind of yada, yada, yada their way through it in this movie.
Which I'm fine with because the movie's amazing.
As she's choosing where she wants to go, we cut to England, where Kate Winslet is crying and feeding her dog and making tea. And then she goes to light the pilot light on the stove, decides not to light it, and instead starts inhaling gas, which is a very strong reaction, and then talks herself out of it, thank goodness, as the computer blings.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm glad she did not kill herself.
Commit suicide.
Kill herself?
Yeah, same.
Yes, me too. She
Yeah.
would have taken the dog with her. Real dark. She answers the message on the computer, and it's Cameron Diaz asking if her house is available for Christmas. And she writes back and is basically just like, great, but it's only available for exchange. So like, it's only available if you also will let me come to your house. And so this is where we find out that Cameron Diaz is in Los Angeles. Kate Winslet's in Surrey. They decide to switch. And Cameron Diaz's basically final message to her is like, well, are there any men in your town? And she says 0. And so she says, great, when can I come?
Yeah.
Is tomorrow too soon? Tomorrow's perfect. Which establishes that they both have easily $2,000 plus to just like drop on plane tickets at the like the drop of a hat, like the very
it's
next
insane.
day.
You guys don't have that?
No, I don't. So they both basically dropped $2,000 on these tickets. She gets on a plane, and it was really weird watching people get on crowded planes with no masks.
Yes, I have felt that with every movie I've watched this last week.
Yeah.
Remember how it used to be?
People shook hands on this one movie, and I was like, oh no.
So at first it looks like a hot guy is going to sit next to her on the plane, but instead his wife kind of drags him away, and 2 older ladies sit on either side of her.
I did love the hot guy fake out, though. I thought that was great.
It was very funny. She gets an email from Jasper, who is Rufus Sewell's character. He basically is like, oh, you're going on vacation? First vacation in 4 years? That's, a turning point. Good for you. How do I reach you?
It's real predatory. Like, I really hate it.
It's real weird. And she writes back, we both know I need to fall out of love with you. It would be great if you would let me try. And I was just like, yes, this is clear boundary setting. This is her taking stock of her emotions and her part in this relationship and creating a situation that will allow her to heal. I am all for it. This is fantastic.
Maybe the one of the most honest conversations that we've been privy to in this whole podcast.
Yeah, I mean, it does make it does make it a little strange later on because we know he got that message, but then he shows up later, but
Well, but he does not stop trying to contact her. He
Yeah.
sends her book pages. He sends her a lot of shit and only shows up because she ignores him.
Yeah.
Because she's super into Arthur and Jack Black.
Yeah, and he's super manipulative.
Yeah, he's
he
terrible.
is super manipulative. And this is kind of the first indication of it, of like, he knows that she would be sad. And if he didn't know before, this message tells him. And then he keeps doing it. So this is, for me, the dividing line between it being a misunderstanding and him actively hurting her.
Yeah, this is where he becomes a bad guy in my book.
Yeah. So we cut to first class where Cameron Diaz is flying with a stack of books in one of those like lay down plane seats.
It is straight up first class. Yeah, it's
Cameron
awesome.
Diaz, her whole job is making movie trailers, and she is super rich.
Yes.
Well, I have numbers for that later. But we have established in this movie that she is rich. So we're just going to go with that for now until I reveal some really questionable numbers later. Yeah. Now, this is the first chance we get for one of my favorite running gags in this entire movie. And they rule of three it. It happens 3 times is the first one. And it's her life as a trailer. And it's like,
oh, I love it.
The Mr. Movie Phone voice. And it's To Be Real is the song that plays in 2 of them, which is used in so many. Like, they picked the perfect songs for fake trailers. I love it so much. And it's basically a trailer of like, she was traveling to get away. And it's,
she had the perfect man. And you
The
see like him
perfect
roll
life.
over in bed and the little light flicker on his tooth. I love that shit.
We cut to LA where Kate Winslet's landed and she takes a cab ride. And this is becoming a trope that we have seen like 4 different times in movies that I hate, which is that every time somebody flies to Los Angeles, they're in a cab or in a car and they drive along the coastline to wherever they're going. It must just be because I live here and I know the reality.
I think this is my favorite trope, and I want it to continue. I want everyone who gets out of an airport in LA to go through the beach.
Great. That'll be an hour drive through traffic.
I mean, like, look at us. We're on the holiday.
I'll see you at the hotel, my man.
Yeah. Todd's going to be smart, fly into Burbank and not have to worry about it.
Listen, I've been to LA. I know how to fly in.
We get it, Todd. We get it. You've been to places.
I'm the one who's not talking about things that are very LA specific that bother him.
It's me.
I know, but I'm the one that eats shit about it because Mikey doesn't like me right now.
What?
Whatever.
It's because you're wearing a sweater, an undershirt, another shirt, and you're in your house, and it's like 10 o'clock at night.
There's my Slytherin Christmas sweater, Mikey.
Like a snake, you need to shed that skin, bro, and get comfortable.
Natalie wore her Hufflepuff sweater today, so I wanted to match.
So cut to Cameron Diaz, who is making her way to Surrey with a fancy driver, and she's kind of asleep in the back, and he parks next to a graveyard, and he's like, oh, it's just down that lane, but I can't turn the car around. So can you just walk from there? Which is weird because cars drive up and back from that house throughout the rest of the movie.
Yeah, she must have really pissed him off in a scene we did not see.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, because that same driver picks her up from that same house at the end of that drive, deeper into winter than they are now.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, this is awkward.
Yeah. Ugh, I hoped you would get a different driver.
They seem to come from different sides. So she struggles to walk down the lane.
She struggles to walk in the snow in heels. That is understandable. I can barely walk in heels when I'm asked to as it is.
Right.
Tell me to do that on a sheet of thin ice and I would die, right? She fully runs in the snow in heels in about 2 hours in this movie.
That's true.
And does not die. She does stop at every gate and take a breath, but she does not die.
So Kate Winslet arrives at Cameron Diaz's literal mansion. She runs through the house basically marveling at everything that's there because it's full-blown a mansion. We cut back to England where Cameron Diaz puts all her stuff away in Kate Winslet's adorable house. And we get a shot of her face creams, like her face regimen. And I know this is probably not interesting to a lot of people, but she uses all one brand and it's the same brand my aunt uses. So I have some financial notes on it later in the movie.
Oh,
I was just
wow.
like,
Okay, cool.
She tries to drive into town, drives on the wrong side and struggles, which, Todd, when you guys were in the UK, did you drive or did you take Ubers and taxis and whatevers?
So we took the tube when we were in London, and when we went to Scotland, I drove everywhere. So I drove all around Scotland on the other side of the road, and it is like the pep talk she was giving herself. I was doing the same thing. I was like, it'll be fine. I just have to focus. Everything's the opposite.
Oh, I would be super
It's
freaked
crazy, but you get used to it after a while. We were there
Yeah.
for a week, so I got used to it after a while.
We spent 3 weeks in the UK with my family, and my dad drove the whole time.
Yeah.
And even with someone else driving, it's terrifying because it's just completely disorienting. So the fact that that Kate Winslet competently drives in the US with no issue, and that B, Cameron Diaz gets used to driving in the UK is a feat in and of itself. So,
I mean, she was there for like a month, right? Like that.
she's there
I
for
buy
2
that.
weeks. They're only there for 2 weeks.
I drove in Scotland for a week and sort of got used to it. I was fine with it.
Yeah. So Cameron Diaz goes into town to the most adorable grocery store I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And she's buying like wine and cheese. It's kind of like a fancy grocery store, like an artisan grocery store.
Like a Whole Foods.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, or like I don't know if you guys have these like a wine and cheese shop, like a place that curates charcuterie.
Yeah, like Kroger.
They call it Ralph's out there, but also no.
No. Anyway, so she buys a bunch of fun cheeses and stuff, and the lady at the checkout is like, "Oh, someone's having a party," and she's just like, "Yeah, me. I'm having a party alone."
This is called my night cheese. Maybe you've seen 30 Rock, then you're familiar.
Working on my night cheese.
Yeah.
The only grocery store I went into when I was in the UK was the one where they filmed Hot Fuzz.
Of grocery stores in the UK, and they're all pretty great.
So she comes home, she's watching TV, her trailer comes on, and she's just kind of hanging with Kate Winslet's dog. She's doing like a staring contest. She lights a fire in the fireplace. I had a hot second of like, did she open the flue? Because a lot of houses in Los Angeles don't have fireplaces, so we don't know how to use them. And so I cannot tell you how many times I've been with somebody in a place that has a fireplace and they just light it and don't check that the chimney's open.
Oh no, so it just fills with smoke
It
immediately?
just fills with smoke immediately. Yeah. And she doesn't check. She just lights it. And I'm just like, oh no.
Oof, that certainly is Holly weird. Mikey, you're so easy to make chuckle. I love it.
She wanders around the house. She sits in the kitchen. She plays the soundtrack of my senior year in high school, which this movie came out literally months after I graduated from high school.
It's 2006, yeah.
She's playing Mr. Brightside, which I have facts about later.
Yeah, she's playing it and butchering it. She is a terrible singer.
Oh, I know this because I saw Charlie's Angels, the only thing I have truly enjoyed Cameron Diaz in.
She's a true triple threat. She's a terrible singer, a terrible actor.
She's a good dancer. I'll give her dancing. Actually, that's not true. I also like her in The Mask.
Oh, yeah.
The Mask and Charlie's Angels, and that's about it.
I forgot about The Mask. That movie is amazing.
I don't know if we can argue that that's a romantic comedy, but if we
I will argue it is.
I'm here for it. Meanwhile, Kate Winslet is exploring the mansion. She's going swimming. She's watching her DVDs, and the phone rings, and it's the front gate. So she kind of fumbles it, but eventually gets the gate open, and it's Jack Black and Shannon Sossaman in a ridiculous convertible. And Jack Black is like, hey, yeah, I'm Miles. I work with Ethan, who we find out is Cameron Diaz's ex. And they need to pick up his laptop.
Yeah.
And to her credit, she's like, let me check on that first so that you're not a crazy person stealing laptops. And I was like, good for you, Kate Winslet. Way to go.
Yeah.
That's a fair thing to ask.
Yeah, and it's very windy. And he tells her about the Santa Ana winds. And when the Santa Anas blow, all bets are off because it's fire season. And that's how we all die.
I was going to ask you if that's a true saying.
It is not a true saying. The Santa Anas are a thing where like the news will be like, Santa Anas again. So 14 different places are on fire. And you're just like, every year.
Anything can happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it blows sparks.
And you know who has sparks? Kate Winslet and Jack Black.
And Jack Black, yeah, and he picks like an eyelash out of her eye.
He gets pretty intimate for his girlfriend being in the car.
She's
right there.
Yeah, there's a couple scenes in this where I'm just like, he's a little touchy-feely for somebody who is from the cold town of Los Angeles where no one likes each other. So like, it's questionable, but whatever. He tells her that he's a film composer and introduces Maggie, his girlfriend. And as they're kind of having this exchange, we see an old man and his nurse walk past the front gate. The next morning, Kate Winslet wakes up, jet-lagged, most likely, and uses the blackout curtains in the house so that she can basically sleep.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Amanda, aka Cameron Diaz in England, also can't sleep. And there's a knock at the door. The dog barks. She gets downstairs, and from outside the door she hears, "It's me, hurry up, it's freezing." And it's Jude Law, and he's drunk.
Yes.
We find out that Jude Law is Iris, who is Kate Winslet's brother, and Iris didn't tell him she was gone.
It was a whim. She decided on a whim.
Yeah, they didn't tell anybody they were going, essentially.
Which is insane.
It's a bit weird. Yeah.
Yeah. My favorite is she's like, "We switch houses for 2 weeks," and he's like, "People actually do that?" And I'm like, "You're right, Jude Law. This is a recipe for murder." And so he sits down on the couch and he's just kind of like, "I promise I'm the brother. Here's where the stuff is," or whatever. And he basically tells her, he's like, "Do you mind if I crash here just for tonight?" And she's like, "It doesn't matter because I'm leaving tomorrow." She's only been there for 6 hours and she already thinks it's a mistake.
Well, she sort of explains that she thought it was a mistake because she felt like she wanted to be alone, but going to a place where she actually was alone, like, magnified that feeling, so it didn't help.
Yes.
She's going to leave. I got it. I was like, that makes sense, although maybe think it through next time.
Right. They decide to have a glass of brandy together, which leads to them kissing a lot.
They do more than kiss, Paige.
Well, we'll get to it.
We're going to get there.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I just, in my notes in all caps, just have like, she's going to get murdered and they better use protection. And she doesn't get murdered, but I'm pretty sure they don't use protection.
They're fully raw dogging later.
They raw dog at every chance. And he's already got 2 kids. So, like, come on.
He should know better.
He's Catholic.
That's very possible, except that it's England, so he's probably Anglican. So they're raw dogging, and this is where, or they're about to raw dog, and this is where she says that her ex-boyfriend told her that she wasn't good at sex.
Yeah.
And thankfully Jude Law is like, yeah, that can't be true. First of all, it's pretty hard to be bad at it.
Right. Sex is like pizza. Like, bad pizza is still like pretty good pizza.
It's still pizza. It could have been a salad, and it's not. It's pizza. So like,
as someone who enjoys a salad every now and then, whatever, it's fine. I don't judge.
I mean, I like a good salad, Todd. You're absolutely correct. I don't want to downplay
But what
salad.
you're saying, Mikey, is you just don't want to toss it.
I'm just saying that it's no comparison. Pizza is better than salad.
I 100% agree, Mikey. Pizza does beat salad.
yeah. So they agree that foreplay is overrated, and that I'm going to say they're both wrong.
I think he's just agreeing because he wants to have sex.
Well, duh. I don't know why she's saying it. I feel like she needs some attention paid to her, and then she might have a different opinion. Get comfortable with receiving affection. That's all I'm saying.
And pleasure, ladies.
Toodle pip.
Toodle pip.
She brings the brandy with them, and he says, "Look at you. You're already better than you think," which is pretty fun.
I thought it was great. And these scenes are amazing because Jude Law is a great actor, and he's acting against someone who I have to assume won a contest to meet Jude Law, and we're just seeing the cameras play out in that scenario.
Yeah, like a cardboard cutout of Miss Tropicana 1996.
Oh my God. No one tag Cameron Diaz in any of our social media.
She's too stoned to care.
She doesn't care. She's laughing all the way to the bank with the money she made in this movie.
Truth. They get up the next morning. He can't find his contacts, so he puts on his glasses, which is a good look.
Jude Law can pull off glasses and napkin and glasses. And that's a hard look.
Yeah.
This mofo oozes charm in this movie.
See, here's the thing. I don't normally like him. I did like him this last
Yes,
movie. I was like,
I did
he's not
too.
my thing, but okay. All right. I'm into it.
Well, yeah.
And like, we'll get into it as the movie slow plays his secret, quote unquote, but it's like a super cute secret. And like, you just like him more by the end.
Yeah. So he tells her that her ex-boyfriend was wrong and that she's great at sex. And as he's doing that, his phone rings on the table and she checks it and it says Sophie. Now, she does this twice, which I think for me indicates it's a habit.
I think so too, yeah.
That she just always checks it because she was worried about her last boyfriend.
And her last boyfriend was cheating on her. I feel like that's sort of justified to do to her last boyfriend. I don't think you should do it here, but I understand the habit, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they have kind of an awkward conversation of like, like, things are complicated. We don't know each other that well. I'm not going to stay here forever. We shouldn't get involved.
Right.
And he's leaving, but he's also like, well, what if I wanted to call you? Like, if your flight's canceled and you change your mind or something, I'm having dinner with friends and you were lovely. It was nice to meet you. So she goes to the airport and we get the second of the fake trailers scored to It's a Shame by the Spinners.
I love the Spinners, man.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So good.
I have the Spinners' greatest hits downloaded to my Spotify and listen to it all the time.
That's a great choice.
Yeah.
And the trailer is basically like found love in an unlikely place. And so she decides to leave the airport.
Yeah.
So we cut to Kate Winslet and Jasper is calling her and she answers it. I was really mad that she answered it. But he wants her to give his book an edit, like a revision, while she's on vacation. And I'm like, say no.
Hey, I know that you're in love with me and I am just brand new engaged to somebody else and that we had sex and that you're on vacation to get away from me. But would you mind doing work while you're on vacation for me?
Right.
Don't worry, I can't pay you. And this is not going to end up with us married or anything. So enjoy your vacation. He is the worst. I hate Jasper so much in this movie. It's a real Mikey move.
Oh,
Wow. First off, I don't want to involve people I don't want.
Mikey's problem is he doesn't have enough women to back burner one. He's ghosted too many.
Oh, I mean, I don't. Next scene.
so we cut back to England where Jude Law shows up to meet his friends in the pub, and who is there but Cameron?
Yeah, she's already there. She was like, she didn't know his friends, so she was just there getting drinks and hanging out, waiting for him to get there, which I loved. I thought that was great.
Yeah, same. We cut back to Los Angeles where Kate Winslet is driving around the neighborhood and sees the old man from before standing on the sidewalk, and it seems like he doesn't know where he is. So she asks him and is like, hey, are you lost? Do you need help? And he's like, yeah, if you give me a ride, that'd be great. I don't know where my house is.
I love what he says. He's like, do you know where I live? And she said, yes. And he goes, well, that makes one of us.
Yeah.
Arthur is so cute. Like, I love everything this man does. And Arthur, like, is his character, which we come to find out is like old Hollywood writer, right? Mm-hmm. And the guy they have playing him is a guy who's been in Hollywood since 51. Like, he's been an actor since 1951. So he is just the actor version
of this person. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And he's so good.
He's so good. And we find out that the reason he doesn't really know where he lives is because the houses have all changed and he doesn't go out alone often. But he asks her what part of England she's from. He says that Cary Grant was from the same part of England.
Oh, you mean when he hella name drops Cary Grant?
Yes.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, how do you know he was from Surrey? And he goes, oh, well, he told me.
Oh, what's this? I found, on the floor. I just found this name I dropped. It's Cary Grant. And he also tells her what a meet cute is.
Oh, I do love that they explain that. That is great. I think the meet cute he describes is probably my favorite meet cute that I've ever heard of.
It's so bonkers where he's just like, two people are shopping for pajamas.
It's two people who go to a store to buy like night clothes, right? Stuff they'd sleep in. And the guy goes to the counter and says, I only need bottoms. And the lady gets the counter at the same time and says, I only need the top. And that's so cute.
I mean, it's the most basic version of a meet cute, but it takes a lot of setup to get there.
Oh, yes. Like, who only needs half a pajama? Todd definitely not, because he just adds layers like,
Todd
conquest.
needs like 3.5 pajamas.
Okay, I fully know this is going to get me in so much trouble between the two of you. I fell asleep in bed last night wearing my leather jacket.
Oh, my God.
I have been debating, and I've talked to Natalie about this. I was asking, should I tell them that happened? And she's like, well, if you don't tell them, I'm going to tell them.
Yes, Natalie! Yes! Anyway, so he tells her about a meet cute. She sees that he has an Oscar, and she hands him keys, and she says to him, I enjoyed our meet cute. Basically, like, we met, it was very nice, I've had a good time.
Yes.
And then she kind of looks around and realizes that he's all alone too.
Yeah.
And just says, I hope you don't find this strange, but I don't know anybody. And would you like to go to dinner? And so they go to dinner together and he tells her all of his stories.
It's so sweet.
It's so sweet. Yes, Todd is right.
I die a little bit every time I see this. Like, I just hope that I live to be 1,000 years old like Arthur is. And that when I do, I have someone in my life that gives a shit to like talk to me and hear my stupid stories.
Yeah, well, and here's my favorite thing that he tells her, because she starts telling him about her ex, and he says, "You're a leading lady, but you're acting like the best friend." Now, do I find it troubling that we think that there's only two options for women in movies, and it's leading lady or best friend? Yes. Absolutely. However,
he comes from old school Hollywood, Paige. Forgive Arthur for this. Yeah.
I do think his metaphor works, and the idea that you're supposed to be the leading lady of your own life.
Yes.
And that she is taking a back seat to the events in her life and essentially giving more than she is taking. If you can't handle me at my leading ladyist,
you don't deserve me at my best friendliness.
So we cut to Cameron Diaz back in England, super hungover, and her bra is on a chair in the front room. And Jude Law is like, "I didn't have anything to do with that." And she was like, "But you were here. Did we?" And then she makes the motion of putting her fingers like literally, like she can't even say it. And he says no because she was unconscious. Good for him.
Yeah, like consent's a big thing. That's the right call.
I think he said, I'm not in the habit of hooking up with dead bodies or something very odd.
No, because that's what Christian Grey says in the same situation, except we find out that Christian Grey undressed her. And in this situation, Cameron Diaz clearly undressed herself all over the kitchen, and then he just let her sleep it off.
Smart.
But I do like that she's like, "Well, if we didn't have sex, why did you stay?" And he goes, "Because you asked me to, so I just slept on the couch, more or less."
Right.
And she was like, "Oh, yeah, I did sort of beg you to stay, didn't I?"
Right. His phone rings, and it's Olivia. He takes the call, and we kind of overhear his call a little bit where he's like, "Hey, I can't today. I've got stuff to do." And he comes back inside, and as she's watching him on the phone call, she's like, "Oh, he's a busy guy," thinking that Sophie from last night and Olivia are other women that he's seeing.
Right.
So he comes back in and says, "I think we should go to town. We should take a drive, get some lunch, and get to know each other. And I'm running out of reasons why we shouldn't." And so they go to lunch. We find out that he is a book editor and a mean one, and that she owns her own company that cuts movie trailers. And it's her first date in a long time. But this is where we get the story about why she can't cry. Because her parents broke up at 15. She was an only child. She didn't see it coming. And she thought that they were like the Three Musketeers. That's what they used to call themselves.
Yeah.
And she thought they were kidding until she saw the suitcase. And she cried herself to sleep for a long time and then decided that she was going to toughen up and hasn't cried since. Which for us answers the story of like, where's her family? Why is she alone? And it's, I guess, because she doesn't want to choose a side or because they've passed away. We don't know. We don't ever hear from them.
I mean, we don't meet Jude Law and Kate Winslet's parents either. It just, it doesn't come up, right? I'm sure that they're still alive. They're married to other people. Who cares? It's not their story, right?
Right.
Although I am pitching The Holiday 2 where Cameron Diaz's parents get back together. It's Diane Lane and Eric Clapton. I don't know.
What?
I was trying to think of a Jack Black type character for Diane Lane. I don't know.
At this point, Jude Law reveals that he cries all the time and that he's very in touch with his emotions. So they go back to the cottage and she doesn't want to invite him in because she thinks that the closer they get, the more complicated it gets.
Yeah.
And she says that sex makes everything complicated, even not having it make things complicated. And he's just like, yeah, so that's why you should have it.
That's why we should totally have sex right now, Cameron.
Let's go. I blocked out the whole day.
There's a sitter for another 3 hours.
We cut to Los Angeles and the doorbell rings and it's Miles, Jack Black, who hands Kate Winslet a FedEx from London. These turn out to be the pages from her ex. And she opens it and there's not even a note for her about them. It's literally just like a piece of letterhead and there's nothing written on it.
It's very impersonal, which is disgusting.
Yeah. She tells him that they're having a Hanukkah party with her neighbor Arthur, and Jack Black is down. He's just like, yeah, of course we're having a Hanukkah party. Let's do it.
I love it. I mean, he is fully on board for pretty much everything. And that's what I love about Jack Black in this movie. He's there to help out or be a part of whatever's happening, and he just wants to make it better or more fun or whatever.
Yes, I very much related with him on this part.
Yeah. So this is where we get to hear Arthur's story about his now late wife, where everyone loved her.
She had the best ass in Hollywood, Paige. That's what that guy said,
right?
right?
In Hollywood. She's giving Nancy Reagan a run for her money.
No, Nancy Reagan had that mouth on lockdown.
So he says that she had real gumption, and I always wrote about her. Basically, like whenever he wrote strong female characters.
Yeah, he was just writing her.
Which is incredibly sweet.
Yeah.
And Jack Black now talks about Maggie, his girlfriend, which is how we find out that she's on location in New Mexico and she'll be back in 10 days. And they end the holiday party. And it was a super fun time. And they're kind of excited that they got to hear all these stories. And they leave it as maybe we can see one of the old movies that Arthur's recommended together sometime. And he kisses her on the cheek, which is a little close for somebody who has a girlfriend.
And Arthur and his friends are like actively trying to set them up for some reason.
They are, yeah, during the dinner, yeah.
So much. But they leave it at that. There's no further contact. They're going to leave it.
Oh, no, Paige, that was a cheek so nice, Jack Black had to kiss it twice.
That's true. He does kiss it twice, but then he goes.
Yeah.
It doesn't become anything else.
Yeah, he goes, I just kissed your cheek twice. This is very weird.
I'm lingering. I've got to go. I got to get out of here.
It's really funny.
And Paige, I'll agree. It is a little strange that he does it.
Yeah.
But I think it's sort of a non-threatening way to indicate to us as the viewers that he sort of is into her on some level.
Yeah, he does like her. We cut to Cameron Diaz in the very tiny bathroom in Kate Winslet's house. And we get our third trailer and it's, again, hilarious music. And it's basically like Cameron Diaz let the love of her life go. These trailers always serve to like push her towards action, which is really funny.
In a world where Cameron couldn't fit in a tub.
That's true. That is a very tiny tub.
She's 5'9", and that tub is for no one over the age of 6.
Yes. So she goes to Mill House. Rosewood Cottage is where she's at. Mill House is where Jude Law lives. So she goes over, rings the doorbell. He answers the door and he's surprised to see her. And she kind of hears that there's people in the house behind him.
This was at a time when you could show up at someone's house unannounced and they wouldn't be mad at you for doing that.
Right.
Like, I love Mikey. Mikey loves me, I think. But if I just showed up at Mikey's house, he'd be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Why didn't you text me?
Yes.
So she asks, is someone else there? And she's pretty cool about it because she's like, we're not official. This is, a thing. I didn't tell you. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, if he had a woman over, that's not cheating.
No, because there's been no established relationship or anything. And that's where she's at too.
Yeah.
And before he can kind of explain what's happening, a little girl appears at his side and says, who is it, Daddy? And we meet, this is Sophie. Then we meet another little girl. Her name is Olivia.
The most adorable children in the world.
Yes.
They're the sweetest little girls. Now, the one question I have is why do they both have their own phones? Because they're like 6.
Yes. Okay. That was my question is why are they saved in his phone as different names? Why does it just say house?
I don't know.
That's a very good point. It's 2006. They both didn't have cell phones.
No, yeah, 2006, I had only gotten my first cell phone like 2 years prior to that. And that was because I was driving.
Yeah.
So they invite her in and they ask if they can still have hot chocolate. He says yes. And they were like, Dad, take her coat. Like, they're very much kind of pushing them together as well.
Yeah, because they're like, new mommy jackpot.
As he's taking her coat, she very quickly, as she's turned away from them, is like, are you married? And he says, no, I'm widowed, basically.
Yeah, he spells it out because he doesn't want the girls to know. I thought that was so sad and sweet. I was like, oh.
Oh, I know. It's so sad.
They tell her that she looks like their Barbie, which is very cute. And they all have hot chocolate together where he equitably splits the marshmallows. And they talk him into doing Mr. Napkin Head, which is a pretty good bit for a dad, I would say.
I would say as well.
Yeah.
So the little girls say, we have a tent in our room. Do you want to see it? Jude Law is kind of like, no, because I think he's kind of like, it's too much. Don't overwhelm her. But they're like, you don't like tents? And she's like, no, sure. Okay, we'll go see the tent. And it's the tent to end all tents.
It's an amazing tent.
It's amazing.
10 out of 10 tents. Wood tent again.
It's great.
It's intense.
Oh, hell yeah, Mikey. It's also indoors, which I'm a fan of indoor tents.
It's great, except when there's haunted toys in them, like in Conjuring 2.
Oh, it's true.
Absolutely not. I like indoor tents on this podcast, babe.
There you go.
The other one we do, I'm out.
So they're just generally being the cutest kids on the planet. And she looks up into the top of the tent and they've cut out a bunch of stars. And she asks who did, like basically who cut the stars out. And they're like, we did, the Three Musketeers, revealing that that's what he refers to them as, which is when I started sobbing.
Me too. I was sobbing absolutely, Paige.
My God.
Yes. It was so sad, you heartless bastard.
So hard.
Oh, no.
The funny thing is, I watched this with Natalie tonight, and I started crying, and she looked over at me, and she was like, oh, man. I am fully like Jude Law when it comes to movies. I will cry for nothing.
Yeah, this made me cry a lot because they really like her. They're into her immediately. And afterwards, he's like, hey, you were a huge hit with the kids.
Well, before they even have that conversation, the girls ask if she wants to spend the night.
Yeah, with their beds, we'll push our beds together.
Yeah, I thought that was so sweet. I thought it was weird for her to be like, yeah, I can't sleep here because I'll fully be raw dogging your dad upstairs. But like, that's fine. I mean, that's the truth at least.
Yeah. And she kind of confronts him, rightfully so, about why he didn't tell her about them. And he basically is like, I don't usually tell people about them because it's a whole extra part of my life that I'm still figuring out. I don't necessarily want to introduce them to new people all the time just to have them leave.
I completely get that. And she's from LA.
Yeah.
It's baked in that she is leaving, right?
Yeah.
So why would I introduce my kids to someone who I'm clearly falling for? I don't want to hurt them like I'm going to hurt, right?
Right. So we cut back to Los Angeles where Kate Winslet goes to hang out with Arthur and she's opening his mail with him and he gets a letter from the WGA, the Writers Guild of America West.
Yeah.
And they want to have essentially a tribute to him. And he's like, no. And she's like, we got to do it. So she tells him that with some exercise, he could walk and I could be your date. So they start doing aqua aerobics. But at this point, I'm like, he's like 90 and he just might not be able to walk anymore. Like, this isn't like oh, you were in a car accident, let's rehabilitate you. This is, you're 90.
So that bothered me. And it bothered me the fact of like, they're going to organize a Christmas time tribute in like a week.
Yeah. An event that would take months to plan. Yes.
Right.
They even allude to it when she's reading it. She's like, they're trying to do this real soon.
Yeah.
It's my only complaint about the whole movie is like, okay, was this event planned and it was going to happen without him?
Right. We then enter what I would call the most convenient series of phone calls ever in a movie. It's not a great screenwriting device, but I'm going to excuse it because I like the rest of the movie.
Wait, are you talking about the call waiting stuff?
Yeah.
I think it's so
funny.
cute.
Yeah.
It's cute, but it's impossible.
I don't know if it's impossible. Improbable? Absolutely. Impossible? It could happen.
Nothing's impossible, Paige.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not impossible, but it's wildly improbable. And in the screenwriting world, we would say that this scene lacks causality because it lacks a reason for every single one of those characters to call her at that time, for like all of them to call together. It's convenience for convenience sake. But again, I'm going to excuse it because I like the rest of the movie. So she's talking to Cameron Diaz on the phone.
Yeah.
And she's like, how's it going? Is it, good? And she's like, oh, you met my brother. How? And Cameron Diaz is very obviously like, how's he doing though? How did he say?
Yeah. Ask him how he's doing.
Did he talk about me?
She's like, do you want to just wait on hold? I can call you back. Yeah. I'll wait on hold.
And she tries to go back to Jude Law with call waiting, but she's lost connection on that call. And so it ends up being Cameron Diaz again. And she's like, I can't believe you slept with her. And it's still me. I'm so sorry. Can I call you back? I can't believe you slept with, like, she's ripping him to shreds.
I love it because then Miles calls and she's like mad because she thinks it's Jude Law and he goes, oh, I'm sorry. Am I in trouble? I just wanted to call and see what you were doing Christmas Eve night. Yeah.
And can I come
that.
with you? So they go to the video store, which is how you know this movie is old. And he brings her an iced coffee drink with a big dollop of whipped cream.
Yeah, she's a big dollop.
And asks her, how's it going with Arthur? and they're just kind of talking about, you know, how their exercise has been going, whatever. And he starts doing a bit where he basically pulls up a movie and then acts out the score of that movie. And he
sings it. Like,
he's
like doing the full Chariots of Fire. Bum, 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 bum. Yeah.
And he gets through Chariots of Fire, Driving Miss Daisy, and Gone with the Wind. And on Gone with the Wind, he changes it. He gets real loud and is like, are you embarrassed by this game that I'm playing? It's very fun. He does Jaws, and then he does The Graduate, and we reverse shot to reveal that in the same aisle of the video store is Dustin Hoffman.
Oh, so
who's
great.
Like, I can't go fucking anywhere. Jeez.
Oh man, I love that. It was such a, what the fuck is Hoffman doing in this movie?
What's really interesting, and I don't know if this was intentional, but there are some specific scenes in The Graduate that are shot from right to left instead of left to right to disorient you. And this shot cuts from right to left where he's on their left, which is unusual. Normally you would cut to see on the right. And I think it's only because on the right you would have seen him behind them. Yeah. But it was one of those things where I noticed where I was like, oh, did they cut backwards? Oh, okay. All right. And it made me think of those scenes in The Graduate, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
He recommends a movie called The Mission. And as he's doing it, they see his girlfriend walk past the front door with somebody else.
Yeah, it's rough, man.
And Kate Winslet literally watches their breakup, and it is brutal.
Yeah.
It is brutal. And like so awkward because you just like sipping your coffee watching a couple breakup, which is like kind of fun, but also kind of awkward.
Glad I got the big dollop.
Yeah, it depends on the couple. If it's somebody I don't know, fun. If it's somebody I do know, not so fun.
Having been in this situation, I felt so bad for Jack Black.
Yeah, well, and he basically is like, I always choose the wrong people, or I always place affection on people who do not return that affection to me.
Yeah.
And Kate Winslet, going through the same thing, is like, well, it's because you hope that you're wrong, and so you ignore the bad things, and then when good things happen, you celebrate that more than you should, and, you know, it makes you stay longer when you shouldn't. And she kind of is pretty honest about her situation, and so they decide to make Christmas fettuccine and just hang out.
Time out. I went on a date a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
A friend date. It's a girl I went on dates with after we both recently broke up with somebody who destroyed us. And then so like we weren't really ready, and then like we kind of stayed friends.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, okay.
But like she invited me over and we watched this movie, and then she made me fettuccine.
I'm sorry, you watched this movie?
Yeah.
Okay, so that leads me to this question then, Mikey. And Paige too. Is Christmas fettuccine a thing? I've never heard of that outside of this movie.
It's not, but fettuccine's delicious all the time.
I know. I want to have fettuccine year round. I don't want to only have it at Christmas.
This is like one of her favorite movies, and so she's like, let's watch The Holiday and I'll make you fettuccine, because I was having like a bad week.
All right.
And I was like, down for it. We're supposed to go out again at some point. As
Mikey, I'm not going to lie. If Natalie said that, I would be like, hell yeah, let's do it. But I would also do that if you were like, hey, Todd, come watch The Holiday and we'll eat fettuccine. I'd be like, fuck yeah, let's do it. That sounds amazing. I don't care if there's food. I'm down. Let's do it.
On my end, it doesn't have to be The Holiday. If they're just like, it's fettuccine, let's watch The Thing. Or it's fettuccine, let's watch Wedding Crashers.
Mikey could be fettuccine and holiday. I'm on board.
Yeah, I love Holiday.
It's so
anyway,
good.
So they hug, and we get a montage of Arthur getting ready for his ceremony.
Yeah.
And then we get a similar montage of Cameron Diaz being sad and alone, but so is Jude Law. And so she's packing. He shows up as she's packing, and they make out. We cut back to LA, where Jack Black has written like a theme for Arthur, but he's also written a theme for Iris. And he says something really funny, which is, I only used the good notes, which is really great. They start singing along to it. She's a doodle prodigy.
I did love that back and forth between them. It was so great because they both say fruitily do at the same time or whatever. And it's one of those things where I was like, I wonder if that was just like a happy accident that happened, because the way he reacts is so genuine and silly. I loved it.
It may be. I don't know if you listen to a lot of Tenacious D.
I do.
But there's a lot of fruitily doodling.
Yeah.
And I think that's just Jack Black's normal way of being, and it may have been a happy accident. Not sure.
Yeah.
I am very sad because this was like his attempt for like mainstream like romantic comedies, and I really feel like missed opportunity. He should have been in more movies.
He's still in a lot of movies.
I think Mikey Means is a romantic lead.
Yeah. And he played like a more serious character.
Yeah, I think it's more a Hollywood problem than specifically a Jack Black problem. But also, Jack Black got older, as people do, and I think the new version of that is Adam Devine, who's in a ton of stuff.
Oh, yeah, he is in a ton of stuff. I like Adam Devine.
I do too. I just think that most of it's not acting. I think that's just kind of who he is.
Oh, well, I'm here for it.
So we cut back to England, where Cameron Diaz and Jude Law are pillow talking, and they're trying to figure out how this relationship can work. And the reality is that there's just not an easy way for it to work.
I have legit had this exact conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
And it ruined my life.
It's a brutal conversation.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Real talk. My husband and I had a similar conversation when he had to go back to Texas to take care of his mom and decided to stay together and do the long distance thing. And it's not easy. So I understand people who don't choose that.
Oh, for me, we stayed together too. Like it was, she lived in Vegas, I lived in Nashville, and it was like long distance for a little while, and then she moved to Nashville, and then I moved to San Diego, and she cheated on me. So like it was a nightmare for me.
Oh boy.
I mean, that didn't happen in my version, but okay.
You gambled and won, Paige. I gambled and lost.
So they have sex like one last time, allegedly, or 12 last times, depending on his stamina.
Well, I mean, and they don't do foreplay,
stamina.
so he can really cram it in. Yeah.
Yeah, just ram it in. You're an American. So we cut back to Los Angeles, where Kate Winslet and Jack Black are on like a lunch date eating sushi, and he has an accidental boob graze.
Yeah.
And they're talking about Arthur's song. They're trying to get Arthur's stuff ready. And Maggie calls, and he tells Maggie that he's busy at the moment because he has to get the music back in time for Arthur's ceremony. But he does agree to go see her. Now, they have a line in this that's a throwaway line, unless you live in LA, where he's like, I have to get all the way out to Silver Lake, but I'm going to try and make it back. So my husband and I live further east than Silver Lake. Silver Lake is northeast of Hollywood. And there's essentially like one road in, one road out. And so if you get stuck in traffic, it's not quick. It's very possible that you could get stuck on your way back. So that's a thing that they establish as like he might not make it, but if you don't live here, it doesn't make sense. And you're just like, oh, I don't care.
I put the context clues together. I was like, okay, he's going further away and he might not make it.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of a dick move.
It's a super dick move, and fuck Maggie. She sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, what you do when someone cheats on you is you just like untangle your lives as quickly as possible and move on.
Well, and he didn't have to answer the phone call.
That's true. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, when I figured out what was happening, I was gone and all the way back in Nashville 10 days later. Like, you just get out of that as fast as possible.
This is a thing where he caught her cheating. They talked about it. I don't know what more there is to say on this one. They chose not to be together. I think it's for the best. She sucks.
Absolutely. But Paige, what happened is that guy who Jack Black saw them with broke up with her.
Yep.
And she wanted to go back to Jack Black because he was on her back burner.
But he tells her that Maggie told him that she misses me and she came to her senses. And he kisses Kate Winslet's forehead on the way out. But Kate Winslet is clearly a little upset because I think she maybe thought they were moving towards something. It kind of felt that way. And
yeah, I think so.
So she gets home. She puts the blackout curtains on. The phone rings and she's reading Jasper's pages. And he's like, oh, I've got a surprise for you. And she's like, where? And goes to check the front door and he's there.
I hate everything about this.
I hated it a lot. Kate Winslet is understandably surprised that Rufus Sewell has showed up here.
Yeah.
He basically is like, I had to see you. And she's like, I was right there for 3 years. And he's like, I know, I just hate when you're gone. I don't want to lose you.
Oh, it's so dirty.
It's real lame.
I mean, it really is just, hey, let's cheat on my fiance together one last time.
Yeah.
Or until I want to do it again.
Yeah, because he pitches at one point. Well, I'll get to it in a sec. So we cut briefly over to Jack Black and Maggie's crying, but he's not really into it. Like, he's not engaging. We cut briefly to Jude Law and Cameron Diaz, who are asleep next to each other, but she's awake thinking about what she's going to do. Then we cut back to Kate Winslet and Jasper. And he says, when you get back to London, we could sneak off somewhere, like Venice. Meaning, he wants to cheat with her then. Right there. Yeah. And then when they go back to London, he wants to continue to cheat with her. And we know this because she asks and is like, so you broke up with her? And he's like, well, I don't think you understand how confused I am. And she's like, whoa, 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 whoa.
She handles it so well, though. I loved it.
Yeah, she's like, you're still engaged. You have no plans to not be engaged, basically. You don't want a relationship with me. You want me for convenience. Get the fuck out.
Yeah, get the fuck out of my vacation.
Yeah, and she gives him an amazing speech and ends it with like, I have gumption. Fuck off. It's great.
Oh, it's so good. It's so cute.
It's so good. She goes to Arthur's house where he says, I like this Hugo boss. He cuts a nice suit. And all I kept thinking was, the Nazis did too.
Yeah, and we already established that he's Jewish, and I did not like that they made him say that.
I didn't either.
I'm going to be honest with you about that. Every time I hear that line, I'm like, ooh.
So he gives her a corsage and he says, I'm sorry if it's corny. And she's like, I like corny. Corny is great. And, corny is wonderful. And I'm getting that from all the movies you made me watch. So they go to his ceremony where they're all ready for him. It's a packed house. All his Hanukkah friends are there.
Legit cry every time this scene happens.
Every time.
This part is really good.
He gets to the end of the aisle and there's stairs and he looks at them for a second and then his theme plays because Jack Black made it, and he kind of jauntily walks up the stairs and Jack Black basically sits down next to Kate Winslet and says, sorry I'm late, it's over with Maggie, you look beautiful, and he kisses her on the cheek. So Arthur gives his speech and it's great.
I do like that we get like 3 lines of Arthur's speech and then it cuts to Jack Black and Kate Winslet talking and he's like, hey, what are you doing for New Year's Eve? We should hang out. And she's like, I'm going to be back in the UK for New Year's. And then he's like, well, I could be in the UK for New Year's. if I come all the way to the UK, will you be my date? And she agrees. And she actually kisses him on the lips here. It's like a little pet kiss, but it's a kiss. It counts. Yeah. Count it, right?
Yeah. So we cut back to England and Cameron Diaz is packing to leave. And they're agreeing to keep in touch because the last time we were with them, they were having that conversation about like, is it going to work out? How do we do this? Jude Law admits that he loves her and she doesn't return it, not because she doesn't feel the same, but because she can't see it working. She can't manage the logistics.
Oh, yeah. And she's like very open about how, hey, this was perfect between us right here. It's never going to be like this because, and she lays out this scenario like in 6 months, it's going to fall apart. So why even go through all that? It's fine. Whatever. We'll just leave this as like a stolen season.
Right.
To like rip a line from Shakespeare. Yeah.
Yep.
It's a good breakup talk. I definitely pocketed that.
So she gets in the car to drive back to the airport, the car that miraculously somehow now can turn around on the street and was able to pick her up at the house.
And is the exact same driver.
And is the same driver.
Yeah.
On the way back to the airport, she starts crying in the car.
She's like, oh my God, I can get wet.
Yeah. Oh my God. Foreplay does mean something. So she gets out of the car and she has to run all the way back down that path to the house in heels, whole nine. She bursts inside where Jude Law has been crying too.
I love when he walks in and he's just like, he doesn't say anything, but he fully is just like, I'm a fucking mess.
Yeah.
I am honestly bawling as much as Jude Law is in this scene. I'm like, oh, I get it, Jude.
It's so sad, and she's such a bad actress, but it's okay because Kate Winslet's here. She basically says, why would I ever leave before New Year's Eve? That makes no sense at all. And you said that you love me, so I'm guessing that I've got a date. And he says, well, I've got the girls on New Year's Eve. And she says, it sounds perfect.
Oh, God, I cry
so good.
so much.
It's so good.
So much. Like, seriously, for the last 15 minutes of this movie, I'm crying the whole time. From Arthur's scene through the credits, I am a ball of tears.
Yes. We cut to Kate Winslet comes back to the UK and she's there with the girls and she brought Jack Black with her.
Yeah.
And Cameron Diaz and Jude Law are there. And it seems like they all have a happy, wonderful New Year's Eve.
And that's the movie. Yes. All right. So having seen it, having talked about it, give me some thoughts. What do you guys think?
I enjoyed this much, much more than I did the first time I saw it. I actually really liked it, and I will probably watch it again next year.
Yeah, it's a tradition movie, and I'm glad that you are now starting your tradition in your first year of watching this movie.
Yeah, I take it back because I've criticized this movie for a long time, and rewatching it, I was just like, no, I do like it. It's fine.
Paige, it's not a perfect movie. There are some things that are a little dated and not awesome, but man, I love it. I think it's so good. I think the stuff that they nailed, the stuff they do so well in this movie outweighs the small little nitpicky things.
Oh, yeah.
That I will say make it not a perfect movie, but it is great.
I think it's a good movie, and then like I think characters make realistic choices, and you can see the feelings really develop, and I really like it, and I think it uses the Christmas theme well, and I like it overall. It's just like a really sweet movie.
Yeah, absolutely. This is like one of those movies you should watch every year. This and The Mask. I need to start watching The Mask every year.
Oh my God.
I watch The Mask every time it's on TV.
Dude, I would so watch it. I haven't seen it in years and years and years, but I would watch it again immediately.
Do you guys think they're still together?
Well, let's go through each couple. So let's do Kate Winslet, Jack Black. Do you think they're still together?
Yes.
They might be.
I think that Kate Winslet got fired the next year because print is dead and she works in the newspaper business. So she moved in with Jack Black and found a job out there as like a writer for a company or whatever.
Yeah, I think she quit because she doesn't want to be around her ex.
I think that is the best case scenario. Yeah. Because she gets away from Jasper or whatever the fuck his name is, and she gets to start a new relationship in a new place.
I think she did move to LA. I also think she wasn't super close to their nieces.
I mean,
I don't know why
maybe.
you think that.
I
but,
don't know
yeah.
because like they live right around the corner. It seems like.
Yeah, but like they seem not as close at that end scene. So I was like, okay, so she's ready to go.
Yeah, I could see that happening. I have some notes about Cameron Diaz's job. And while in 2006, it may not have been as remote, I would say present day, she would move to the UK because her entire job is remote.
Well, yeah, he could have moved to LA because his entire job could be done remotely. In fact, his entire job could have been done remotely in 2006.
Right. I will say that I don't think he moves because of the kids. I think he stays put.
Sure, I think Cameron Diaz could fully do that job now. I mean, Cameron Diaz could move to the UK and have someone run the LA office, and she would just open the London office or whatever, and she could start that side of the business there and still be, wealthy. Maybe not wealthy. We'll talk about that in a second.
Well, yeah, that's a bit of the problem because those types of businesses don't actually exist, and we'll get into it in just a second.
Yeah, but okay, now having talked about could they stay together, do you think Jude Law and Cameron Diaz could figure it out?
Yeah.
I think Cameron Diaz needs to reevaluate the priorities in her life.
Which I think she did symbolically when she cried and stopped the car.
Yeah.
I think they all talked this all out.
But Mikey, crying once in the back of a car is not getting over the trauma that she dealt with as a child with her parents coming apart.
That's how I got over my trauma of my parents divorcing, was crying in the back of a car one time.
I think it's more along the line. I'm thinking more along the lines of her relationship with work, where she's taken a vacation, but I think it's going to be a difficult transition for her to slow her life down in a way that would be a healthy relationship in their family unit.
Yeah.
Potentially.
You guys are not answering the question, though. Do you think they're still together?
I think they could be, but I think it's going to be tough for her.
Yeah. I think Jack Black and Kate Winslet are much more likely to be together than Jude Law and Cameron Diaz.
Right. But I will say that sometimes people fall in love with a family. Like you meet someone, they've had kids, and you kind of, it becomes your new family. And so it becomes more important. And so I think that can be and can happen. So I do think they might be together. I just think that it's a tough transition, which would be the case for anybody coming into that situation.
Absolutely.
All right. Are we ready for some fun facts?
Yeah, let's do some fun facts, Paige.
So in that one scene, we see that she's using Kiehl's skincare, and the amount of bottles that she has means that her skincare regimen costs approximately $500.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, someone who has a shitty skincare regimen. How long does that last?
Maybe a month.
Oh, Jesus. $500 a month?
Wow.
Yeah, I would say at best 2 months. She's clocking in at a couple $100 a month easy.
That's crazy. But I mean, her skin looks great. Who am I to judge?
Skin looks
She's
great.
got the money, spend it.
Yep. And now granted, that's just because she's got like 10 bottles of stuff. Like you don't have to use all 10 of their like skincare line or whatever. The average person would use probably 1 or 2, and that would maybe cost you $100 to $120 every 2 months, give or take. But for the amount of bottles that she has, it's like $500. Now, let's get into some houses. So Jude Law's house in Surrey, which, by the way, I had to find real estate websites for Surrey, England. You're welcome. But his house...
That's the kind of deep dive research you could expect on this podcast.
Yep. His house, or rather a similar house, a similar size house in Surrey, would cost about £925,000.
Oh, damn, it's over $250,000.
Yeah, over $1 million. Now, granted, those are today's prices.
Sure.
There's not
And
an
this is 2006.
easy way to get historical data.
I have a question though, Paige. He also had a cow. Did you factor in the heifer?
Cows are actually not as expensive as you would think. They're expensive to feed. They're not expensive to buy.
It's interesting to me that the person in LA is telling the person in Tennessee how much a cow is.
Oh, I don't know if you know, but cows are maximum $1,000 or so.
What?
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
I am way overpaying for beef.
Again, depending on the cow. If you've got like some sort of prize winning cow, it's probably more. But I have looked into prices of livestock because there's a part of me that would love to, like, in the apocalypse, have a farm. And you can get calves for like a few $100.
Really? Okay.
It all depends on like where you got the cow, what you're feeding the cow, what kind of cow it is.
Right.
Anyway. So yeah, cows are not that expensive. So, and again, this came out in 2006, so prices would have been lower. But all we really have to go on is today's prices. So Kate Winslet's house is closer to about 499,000 pounds. So like $550,000, $575,000.
It's a cute house, man. I love that place.
It's a cute house. But let's go into Cameron Diaz's house.
Yeah, that place is a legit mansion.
Now, Cameron Diaz's house, as we've established from the route that they take up basically through Malibu up Sunset, means that her house is likely in Bel Air, just above Beverly Hills, or it's in the Hollywood Hills. I searched both. I found a house that looks pretty comparable for $12,995,000.
Good Lord. Okay, that's so much money. That's insane.
I can't comprehend that.
12 million. Actually, 13 million, rounded up.
That's insane.
Now, the property taxes on that would be easily a couple $100,000 a year. Like, it's the property taxes are worse than the house itself almost. Because
but she has the very lucrative job of making trailers for a living.
Wrong. Let's go into it.
I was hoping you'd get into this. That's what we call in the business a segue.
Segue. Now, here's the thing. If she owned her own film development company, like a production company, it's possible that she would have a lucrative job, although still nowhere near enough to afford a $12 to $13 million house. But this movie specifies that she makes trailers, and movie trailers are typically made by content producers within the distribution studio that has purchased the movie in their marketing department. It's not necessarily something that they contract out for unless it's an indie film, and in that case, it's going to be a lot less money anyway. But content producer salaries can range from between about $60,000 to $100,000 to $150,000, depending on your level of investment within the company and the size of the projects you work on. So for example, a content producer at BuzzFeed who's making like small internet videos is probably going to make closer to about the 60 to 80K range, while someone managing an entire trailer division for a distribution studio is on the $100,000 to $150,000 end. That would be the equivalent of what she does, most likely. But that means that she's maxing out. Like, let's say that she is overpaid. She's still only making about $200,000 a year. There is no way she could afford a $12 million house. It would literally never happen. This house is impossible. Essentially, a $200,000 a year salary, which is about where she would be, would buy her a modest 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house in Silver Lake. Now, let's have some notes about Mr. Brightside, because I don't know if you guys know this, but Mr. Brightside has been one of the longest charting songs in history.
The Killers are amazing. I love the Killers.
The Killers are amazing. But as of 2017, Mr. Brightside had charted on the UK singles chart for 11 of the last 13 years.
That's crazy.
Yes, including a 35-week run in 2016-2017 where it peaked at number 49, prompting an article reviewing how Mr. Brightside had literally not left the charts at that point since its release.
Good Lord.
Yes, it has a record of being on the charts for 209 weeks and counting, because it still routinely makes the chart. And if we look at some of the top 10 most enduring hits on the chart, Mr. Brightside sometimes ends up in that top 10, especially in the UK. More so in the UK than the US, but occasionally in the UK. And that's up against things like the fucking Beatles. The Killers' Mr. Brightside is so famous that it has had booked sing-alongs at the Glastonbury Festival.
What?
Yes, where they literally like had the Killers play it and thousands of people showed up just to sing along to the song. And it was also one of my favorite songs in 2006. There you go.
Wow,
That's great. I mean, it's a great song. It's not as good as their song, The Man, but it's a great song.
That's a pretty good song as well. I mean,
I love that song.
Hot Fuss is one of my favorite albums, so I feel you.
Oh, so good.
So anyway, those are our fun facts.
Well, thank you for those fun
Thank
facts,
you.
Paige. We appreciate it. You guys want to do some box office?
Sure.
All right, so this movie came out in 2006. What do you think the production budget was?
$20 million.
There's a lot of famous people in this movie. It's Nancy Meyers. It's filmed in expensive places in Los Angeles. I'm going to say this is a $30,000 movie.
Okay, say that again, but $30 million.
That's what I meant. Sorry, $30 million.
Yeah, okay. So it was $85 million.
Shut the front door.
Nope, $85 million.
That's so expensive.
It's so expensive, guys.
There's no special effects in the whole film.
No, everything's in the lens. It's in the camera, right? But you are talking about 4 actors that are like in their peak, in their prime in this movie.
I'm going to say between the 4 of them, that accounts for 40 million or more of that budget is just salary.
Oh, I would say that that's maybe on the low side.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so it came out December 8th, 2006. It was 3rd at the box office that week. It was beat by Apocalypto.
Oh gosh, I don't think I've ever seen that movie in full, but that was Mel Gibson's.
Yeah, it's so good. That was his last movie before his whole meltdown.
Yeah,
before he lost his mind, yeah. And then it was also beat by Happy Feet.
Oh, really?
Happy Feet was huge.
Happy Feet had been out for a month.
I think I was too old for Happy Feet at that point because I've never seen it.
That's fair. And then Holiday was number 3. It clocked in at $12.7 million in its opening weekend on an $85 million budget. $12 million is not bad.
It's not bad.
So, what do you think The Holiday made in its full theatrical domestic run?
I remember people loving this movie, even when it first came out. And so I feel like making back its budget domestically is a stretch, but I would not be surprised to see it hit 60 or 70 mil.
I'm going to say 50.
Okay. So, Paige, you're closer. It made $63.2 million domestically. This movie also crushed overseas. It made $141.9 million overseas. Jeez. So the worldwide box office of $205 million. So
it was a mega
And then it
hit.
went on to make another $82 million in the domestic DVD and Blu-ray sales. So it made money, which sucks because I feel like this movie proves that you could have a Jack Black sized male lead in a romantic role and it still sell tickets. And that is something that is super rare even nowadays.
I mean, unless you're talking about Paul Blart Mall Cop or Paul Blart 2 More Cop, More Mall. But like, you're right. It doesn't happen often enough and it should.
Yeah. Anyway, I just thought that was worth pointing out that it had I would say a body positive male lead at least.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. They just don't let him have sex in this movie. And that's what's frustrating.
That's true. I mean, yeah, absolutely. This is 2006. I mean, you don't see people doing that now though. I mean.
Yeah, back then, all you could do is kiss on the cheek.
Yeah, I know.
Unless you're Jude Law and Cameron Diaz.
We hadn't had that episode of Girls where Lena Dunham and Patrick Wilson have sex, so I get it. People aren't ready for it. Whatever, fine. But yes.
Paige, you just got to release the tape.
Of what?
Mikey's face is stellar right now. So yeah, but that's box office. So this week I made you guys watch The Holiday, and you're welcome. Paige, what are you making us watch next week?
I've been holding on to this one. This is why I let Todd skip my turn so I could choose this week, because the next episode is going to air on Christmas Eve.
Yes.
Which is why we're going to watch White Christmas.
Oh my gosh.
I'm so happy about this, Paige.
That's a musical, right?
It is a musical. It's a musical and a farce. You got 2 different couples, Rosemary Clooney, Bing Crosby, Danny Kaye. It's amazing. You have Vera Allen doing tap dancing that people just only dream and wish that they could do. It's great. I'm super excited for it.
I'm super excited too because we haven't done any of these like 1950s era rom-coms
Oh,
that
man.
there are so many of, and they are so amazing. I can't wait. I grew up on these kind of movies.
I feel like Mikey's all mad and upset about it. And then
I
we're going
know.
to come back next week and be like, okay, but I loved it. I don't,
I will watch it with an open heart and an open mind.
watch it with your mom. I'm sure she'd love it.
Yeah, take your mom on a date to it, Mikey.
And I will fully tell you, the plot of this movie makes next to no sense. There are bonkers things in this film. It makes about as much sense as The Night Before Christmas, except there's no time travel and there's songs. So we're going to have a great time.
Oh, I can't wait. This is going to be great. Paige, I'm so glad you picked this one. All right, Mikey, do you have a review for us to read?
I do have a review.
Well, while you're getting ready to read that review, let me explain how they can have their review read on the podcast, and that is simply to leave us a 5-star text review and leave Mikey a little text so he has something to do with it. So, Mikey, do you have a review for us to read?
Yes.
Who's it from, Mikey?
JJ Rose 1
Nice.
writes, I think I'm in love. ...
Aw.
They say, I hate rom-coms.
Okay.
I hate almost everything about them that there is, but I also love them so much.
Okay. Yeah. I get it. Absolutely.
I feel like I'm in some ironic storyline waiting for my perfect match to enter scene, which is exactly what happened. Romancing the Pod came into my life and showed me that there are other cool people who share the same love-hate relationship with these movies that I do.
Paige, we're cool.
I've been cool this whole time.
This is news to me.
Todd, Mikey, and Paige are absolute gold. I laughed through every single episode, and I found a podcast that I can recommend to people who don't share my interest in ghosts and gore.
Oh, nice.
I'm here to leave behind my rom-com bitterness and announce my feelings from the top of the nearest tall platform. I'm in love with Romancing the Pod.
Oh, that's so sweet. JJ Rose 1, thank you so much for that awesome 5-star review. And I'm sure because you're normally into ghosts and gore that you're probably a avid Horror Virgin listener. So thank you so much for that as well. So, yeah, guys, if you like this power throuple that we have here on this podcast, make sure to check out our other podcast, The Horror Virgin. And that is the only other podcast that Mikey and I are on. But Paige gets around, and she is on 2 other podcasts, Black Card Rehab and Cult Podcast. So guys, definitely check out those because they're amazing. If you want to follow us on social, we are at Romancing the Pod Show.
Yes.
On Instagram, and we are at something else on Twitter who I just have never taken the time to learn
It's just Romancing Pod Show because they have a character limit and it's show SHO like Showtime.
So guys, check that out as well. And if you want to follow us all individually, Paige is at Rampage Wesley everywhere, including TikTok, except for Twitter, where she is at Paige Wesley. Mikey is at MRandolph24, and I am at Todd J. Awesome everywhere.
That's going to be it for us this week, guys. I'm Paige.
Mikey.
And I'm Todd.
And you complete us
To completion.
Toodle pip.
Laters, baby.
I'm your life now.
Dude, the end of this podcast got very aggressively romantic.
All I want for Christmas is romance in the pod. Romance in the pod with Paige, Mikey, and Todd. Gee, if I could only have romance in the pod, then I could wish you Merry Christmas. Buy something nice for your mother, okay?